everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So, I have a term in movie watching which I call a Hail Mary, and that is when you have a movie that can be good or a little bit bland or a little bit boring or downright a bad movie, and somehow it pulls out that Hail Mary and transforms the movie into a good movie, a great movie, a fantastic movie, or an absolute masterpiece. They can do that with a simple thing or a complicated thing, but what they did in An Inspector Calls was nothing short of a miracle, because when they had 10 minutes left of the movie, they did something I didn't expect them to do. And when they did that, everything changed and this movie became, I wouldn't say a masterpiece, but it became a much better movie than it had been before that. What did they do? I'm not going to spoil that for you, but I'm going to tell a little bit about this Guy Hamilton late 50s movies. This is An Inspector Calls. Bromley, 1912. So we have this upper class family that is trying to enjoy a fancy dinner and stuff like that, and their daughter is going to get married to this guy. Sure, he may drink a little bit too much, but nah, it will be fine, they think. And they're sitting there and they're bickering a little bit. Is there going to be a war? Some says yes, others says no, but everything seems to be working out for them. But then a police officer shows up. An inspector sort of shows up out of the blue, and he starts asking questions about a woman who has recently died because of suicide, and he thinks that they are responsible for it. They of course said, no, we have never heard about this woman before. No, this is an unknown thing to us. We have nothing to do with it. But then he says, well, what about this thing that happened, a year ago? And then we get a flashback, and then I said, oh no, shit. I knew at this point, that was like 15 minutes into the movie, and I knew at that point exactly where this movie was going. And fair enough, every single one of the members of the family, of course, have had some kind of interaction with this woman, and it is not painting them in a very positive picture or anything like that. And I knew at that point exactly where this one was going, and I said to myself, we have an hour left of this. Oh shit. And sure, it is tragic, and sure it is a sad story and stuff like that, but it was just so slow, and you could see a mile away where this one was going, and I was just sitting there and sharpening my axe, because I was going to plant this in the fucking face of this movie and tell it off that it was one of the most boring and one of the most nauseous movies I've ever seen, and I was just so incredibly uninterested in what's happening to this one. Sure, the characters slowly started to grow at me when they were starting to bickering and be even more unhinged than they were before, but I'm just going to see this movie through, and I'm going to be very cranky about it. And then when they had 10 minutes left of the movie, they said one line. That's all they had to do. One line. And it made me basically go from to what? When they did that, I was completely mesmerized by the whole thing. Now, it came too late to save the movie, and this movie is too much of a drama and too little of a whodunit or a thriller to have it actually save the movie, but it almost did. Well, it saved the movie from being, a bad movie to being a pretty damn good movie. But it could have been, if this was structured a little bit different, if the story would have been a little bit different, it could have been an absolute fucking masterpiece. Now it cannot quite, reach these lofty heights and stuff like that because of, the acting isn't perfect and it's a little bit too cliched and the characters were very flat, but the last 10 minutes of this movie made it from, couldn't stomach it to must-watch TV almost. And the end was sort of, what was that? You can debate a lot about it, and you can question a lot about it, but you cannot overstate how excellent that ending was. And they have probably left a lot of small little clues here and there to guide you through it if you would rewatch it. I'm not going to rewatch it because it doesn't have that interesting of a story, because you have to go through so much molasses to get to the absolute fantastic last bit of the movie. Now, if you think that this is something that is for you, then this is a fascinating story once you get to the good bits. But as I said, you have to go through a lot to get to that point. But those last 10 minutes where they effectively had to cram about 30 minutes of plot into a 10-minute segment is pretty damn excellent. And if you have never seen this movie, I do recommend it. But before that thing happened, I would advise people stay away from this one, but now I don't. And Inspector Calls is a kind of a fascinating movie based on a play which I think could work better as a play rather than a movie. But still, this was a pretty damn good movie. Eventually, a tough movie to rate. Without the twist, I don't think this movie could have scratched 15 points or anything like that, but now I'm going to have to give this one 59 points. This is a very fascinating tale, and with the help of a better cast and a little bit of a better setup and maybe some shifts in the thing, you could have made this into an absolutely awesome movie. But it is still a movie that I do recommend, and it is a well-made movie. And if you're into this sort of things, and if you can stomach the very slow pace and the almost sluggish tempo that we're subjugated to, you might find this movie to be quite excellent actually. But for me, it was just a very good movie, mainly because that the start of it was just so incredibly boring. So I'll see you next time for so-and-so reviewing, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.